Hello?
Hi. Wally, did you want to do the new roll call method? Or do you want me to do it?
I, sorry, that's all good.
I'll go ahead and take care of it. Commissioner Myers, Glenn Brown,
Here.
Deborah Knoll, Mike Lacey, Brent Gottschalk, Eugenia Joseph, Leon Collier.
Present.
I'm sorry?
Here.
Leon?
Yes.
Thank you. Artie Fryer, Craig Purcell,
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Can you please pronounce your last name for me, Michelle?
Sure, it's okay. It's sick of this.
What?
Sick of
Okay.
this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Riley Larson, Karen Wessel,
Here.
thank you. Christina Melling,
Here.
Beth Pasick,
Present.
Marcella Blanchette is excused. Mark Harshberger. Deborah LaKenta is also excused. Is Scott Bragan in there? Jennifer Waskovich,
Yes.
Alexia Wiggins, Corey Norris, Councilman Schisler,
Here.
Kristen Thomas. She is virtual. John Vargas is excused. Cassandra Blaylock,
Here.
Jerry Stickney,
Here.
Patrick Minzy.
Here.
We do have an in-person quorum.
Yeah, okay, I wanted to go ahead and read into the record Commissioner Myers. She's not able to make it, to today's meeting. So, make sure that it's.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. With an in-house quorum, we can attend to all our regular business then. So the first, is there any public comment? Have any public here that wish to comment? Ready? Okay, very good. That appears to be none. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the approval of the written minutes and the workshop meeting from April 25th, 2025. Everybody's had an opportunity to review those minutes. Can we have a motion to approve or not?
Motion to approve, Christina Melling.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any comment on the motion? Hearing to be none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, first action item is the, this 2025 Transportation to Savannah Service Plan Annual Update. Molly Gallup, there are any comments?
Before I begin, we do have 9 in person, and for in-person form, we need 10. So I can go ahead and present this and we can get a consensus. Or what we can do is we can skip this for later in the meeting and perhaps allow maybe one extra person if they do show up late, and then we can bring this together.
Okay, my bad. I thought,
No, it's all good.
I thought she said we had.
I thought so too, but looking around and doing the count.
Okay.
This Patrick, he's not a
Oh, okay.
neither is Jerry.
Well, I think your jury was, okay, so, well, how long is your presentation gonna be?
I don't know, like 10, 15 minutes. Maybe.
Okay, well, let's, in the meantime, somebody else may.
Yeah, that usually does happen sometimes, so when they show up.
Well, let's do that. Let's go ahead and do your presentation. And then, if we do establish a quorum, that we go ahead and vote on it, to approve. Otherwise, so just do a consensus motion. Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone. Good morning. My name is Wally Clark, CPO staff, and I will be presenting on the 2025 Transportation Disadvantaged Service Plan Annual Update. So the TDSP is made up of three main components: the development plan, the service plan, and quality assurance. The TDSP is developed every 5 years with minor annual updates in between. The 2025 TDSP update is a minor update. So the current TDSP was adopted by the TPO board in 2021, and the TDSP is developed alongside the Community Transportation Coordinator, which is in Hillsborough County, the Sunshine Line, and the TPO. And today's goal is to go over the TDSP and the 2025 updates, and then approve the TDSP submitted to the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantage for final approval. And the TDSP is a required annual filing for the TDSP. So the development plan and plan components consist of 4 different elements: the introduction, the service area profile, the service area analysis, and the goals, objectives, and strategies. The introduction gives a brief background on the TD program at a state and local level, the current TD organizational chart, the mobility sections reviews from the Hillsborough County and City of Tampa comprehensive plans, and an overview of the outreach efforts during the initial drafting of the document for public input. Service area profile gives a service area description of services and a demographic overview of TD users in the county. And the service area analysis highlights future TD population forecasts and includes needs assessments and barriers of coordination that were identified during the initial drafting of this document based on the results of public participation back when the TDSP was originally adopted. Finally, the goals, objectives, and strategies are included alongside their implementation plans. So this slide looks at section 2 and 3 of the TDSP. The service plan sections of the TDSP highlights the operational elements of the Sunshine Line, including the types, hours, and days of services, and how to access the services. Operational requirements, including cancellations, no-shows, and eligibility, as well as CTC service priorities, and the local complaint and grievance procedures and process. The current agencies under coordination agreements are included in Table 9, Section 1.3.3. Section 3 of the TDSP is quality assurance. This describes the CTC's evaluation process. Performance standards are an integral part of the continued operation of a high-quality TD coordinated system. The 5 categories are reliability, service effectiveness, service efficiency, service availability, and safety. Annually, these standards are used in the CTC evaluation to evaluate the performance of the CTC. The CTC evaluation is performed for the review of the TDCB and posted on the Hillsborough County TPO website. This year's 2024 CTC evaluation, which was approved in February, is available online. And the TDSP also includes the rate model calculations, which were approved in April, a CTC vehicle inventory list, and an up-to-date and signed system safety plan signature page, which certifies compliance with the system safety program plan to FDOT. And a copy of that is included in the TDSP. All of this is reviewed and updated annually. So the original plan identified the following needs assessment and barriers to coordination. TPO staff did not make any changes to this section, and for the 2025 version, it remained the same. TPO staff expects them to stay the same until we make the next major update, which is next year, or if there's any future guidance. So the needs assessment identifies the unmet mobility needs for the transportation disadvantage, which have been identified through an analysis of public outreach results, county population and demographics, and the TD population and trip forecasts. These needs are expanded, fixed route public transit, access to employment, regional needs, and increasing demand for services. Further descriptions of each one can be found in sections 1.4.2 of the TDSP. Oh, sorry. So barriers to coordination. Barriers to coordination can include any federal, state, or local government policies, natural or operational environmental characteristics and constraints, or funding constraints that would hinder or prevent the coordination of transportation services. And the 3 barriers to coordination that were identified were land use, low density, funding for transportation, land use, low density development patterns, and awareness of resources. For more information, as mentioned, please review the document beginning on page 51, section 1.4.3. So slide 6, this one is, I got mentioned before, the 2025 TDSP update included minor but important changes to the document. The changes were listed in attachment in this month's meeting agenda. They're also available for you up front right here. Each change will be included in the updated TDCB and uploaded on the TPO website once the TDCB has approved these changes. So updates for section 1.1.4 included an update summary of the TPO's Access 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan and updated the summary of the 2024 HART Transit Development Plan. Section 1.2.1, we updated the HART service area description language to reflect that service is provided where 71% of the population lives within the county and 29% of the population is not served by traditional fixed route transit. In section 1.2.1, section demographics, we updated map 1 to reflect the current HART fixed route and paratransit service area. We also updated the data for the major trip generators for the CTC using numbers from the 2024 annual operating report. So here is the updated map for the HART fixed route and paratransit service area. If it's hard to see, I do apologize. That is the rough draft for the TASB was included in the agenda, so we need to go back to that to see what's there. And then slide 8, again, demographics of the major trip generators for the Sunshine Line system. We added the TD trip generators, as you see. 60% were for nutritional trips, 23% of total trips were for life sustaining or other trips, 13% were for medical trips, employment made up roughly 4%, and education and training, daycare trips made up the rest. In section 1.3.1, we provided total number of total trips for door-to-door trips and bus pass trips, as well as we updated the language on the 27 local fixed routes, 4 limited express routes, and 2 HART flex routes in the HART section. And then we also included in table 9, Pyramid Inc. with their updated service information in the coordination contractor statement. So in this section, section 2.1.2, we updated language to reflect accurate door-to-door transportation service hours, which is Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is the Sunshine Line service hours. In section 2.2.1, as well, we also updated office hours to include 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and updated the reservation service request procedures language. And the language that we included is the one up there. So reservations may be made up to 7 business days in advance and must be made no less than 2 business days in advance. We have the next day and same day language for door-to-door services for urgent and other critical trips. We also updated the 2025 income chart, which is used to determine client eligibility. That's the chart that's included in the TDCB. And we use the 2025 federal poverty guidelines. In section 2.2.6, we included a recent copy of this year's Sunshine Line System Safety Program Plan certification, as well as the fare structure in section 4, which was approved by the TDCB in April and by the Florida Commission for Transportation Disadvantage. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions while you're?
It's the easy one. What qualifies, how many people make a group? When it says the numbers change by 5.
Did you say that it was 2005 guidelines for income requirement? Is that the newest one that's out there? It's from 2005?
No, excuse me, 2025.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I know, that's okay. I probably heard you wrong. That's why I thought I'd ask you a question.
Oh, no.
Wow, that's really deep. Okay.
That's a different one. Sorry.
Oh, fine.
Any questions? I had one. Can you define nutritional trips?
So, that supposed to be one.
Nutrition trips are, they're 2 categories. They're either aging services and nutrition programs, or people going for a meal, and there are people going for grocery shopping.
Okay, so it does cover.
Right. Or leave food pantry, but yeah, picking up food or going to.
Thank you.
I have a question. How frequently is a needs assessment completed? Was one completed with this update, or is it just with the full plan?
Yeah, usually for the full,
Full plan.
yeah, so our goal is obviously to update that next year. Yeah, a major TDS.
Major. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, now the process for this is, what will happen with this report? This will go,
So so what we do is if it gets voted and approved by the TDCB, we have the chair, which is Commissioner Myers, she'll sign it. And then I will send that to the CTD, with our quarter four invoice, saying that this is what we did. And it's kind of like proof that, hey, we voted on it. So,
considering we do not have a physical quorum, that is what's important, get quorums, it's what we need to do, that's okay. What we'll do is we'll have a motion to, can approve it.
Yeah, good morning, Sarah Kiefer, TPO staff. Because you don't have a quorum and you can't make a motion and take action, if people do come, if we get one more voting member here this morning, you could do that. Otherwise, we would convey to the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantage, if you agree that there's consensus, we'll convey that you had consensus, but no quorum. And we'll ask them for their guidance. They might ask us to do this at the next meeting. So we are at the last meeting of the fiscal year of our TD grant. So we'll ask them for guidance
Okay,
on that.
well, we'll delay it until the end of the meeting and get it, or a vote to approve or the consensus and see if anybody else appears. I don't think so at this point. We're 15 minutes in the meeting, so we'll just table this for now and then move forward. Don't let me forget to back on.
Sure, if you'd like, if you want to do consensus now, just while you're thinking about it, and then we can revisit that if you're ready.
We can supersede with vote.
Yes.
All right, we can't really take a vote on it, but by show of hands, who agrees with the consensus to move forward? That to be all, okay, very good. So we will move this forward. We can ask Commissioner Myers to sign off on this chair.
yeah, well, yeah, I think we'll figure it out on the CTD side.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is there someone where we can find a better map or a map where we can like zoom in, really fix routes?
Yeah, that should be in the,
Is it
so in the agenda, we have a link to
Oh, there's
the,
a link. Okay.
to the TDSP. So that, the TDSP has linked there, has all the changes.
Uh,
What I do is I like to put the list there so you guys can go and see what was changed.
gotcha. Thank you.
I have a quick question. As far as the quorum, if we had, a backups are able to vote, right? So let's say that I came with my backup today, would that have helped to reach a quorum or no? You want
It's still to proceed. Your call.
And so like, that's,
I didn't know.
no, you're
Sure
good.
enough.
Let's try.
I didn't. It's all good. Yes, sir.
Actually, kind of out of order, but I was looking at the map and then I was wondering, I can see you have centroids around where the stops are. What is the distance of from the stop in terms of the area there on the centroid? So how far away?
Mile and a half, mile and a half.
The heart map is a bit of a Rorschach test. It really is difficult to read, so you could also go online to heart.gov, and you can blow it up and get a better layout. But just the way that the city's laid out, like, look, it's very difficult to.
No, but Heart staff was really helpful. They gave us all the shape files that we needed to
Oh, yeah.
create the new map.
That's that.
And we ran it by them to make sure. They were like, hey, you gotta fix this.
Thank you very much. Let's move on into status reports. First one is emergency management, hurricane season preparedness. Mr. How do you say your first name?
First name is Katya.
Katya.
Yes. That's okay. All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here this morning. I know we had been asked to provide a quick presentation on just the upcoming hurricane season for 2025. We'll discuss some things in regards to emergency management and the evacuation working group that we help coordinate for disaster response. And then I'll be here, of course, for any questions afterwards.
So as stated, my name is Kathy Miller. I'm the Operations Section Chief with the Hillsborough County Office of Emergency Management. I also brought with me Emily Lazard. She's our new Transportation Coordinator with the Office of Emergency Management. She's a fresh 3 weeks in. So I wanted to bring her here just to have the opportunity to meet you all. All right, so jumping into it for our climate prediction for 2025, some of you may have already seen this. There was forecasts that had come out from Colorado University, and this is the most recent one that came out from the National Weather Service at the end of May. So pretty much the message here with this visual is that we are anticipating another above average storm season when it comes to hurricanes. Of course, we have no way of knowing where these storms will go. This is to include everything in the Atlantic. So if we get a lot of those, that we call those just the fish storms, right? Where they're just out in the middle of the Atlantic, then that's good news for us. But of course, if we have a season like last year, where, you know, that would cause more issues for us here in Florida. So here is the updated storm list for this season. Fun fact, if you guys did not know this, these names are rotated every 6 years through the National Hurricane Center. So if you remember any names from 6 years ago, they're back on this list. One name that did change was the Dexter. We had Dorian 6 years ago, if you guys remember that storm. He was bad enough to take off the list, and now he has been renamed for Dexter. So for last year, Helene and Milton were also now taken off of the list. So 6 years from now, you will not see them on the list. They will have new names. So if you see your name on here, I have to be something on team already. But apologize to your friends. I see Jerry's on here. Jerry, you better start doing your rain dance there. No, you're not the one that impacts us here in Florida. As a reminder for peak season of hurricane season, we do always pay a little bit more attention to the beginning of September. September 11th through the 9th and 11th is actually historically the peak day of hurricane season. And if you guys think back to last year, we did see Hurricane Debbie at the end of August. Then we saw Helene at the end of September, around September 26th. And then Milton, unfortunately, not even 2 weeks later on October 9th. So that is just historically our peak season, but we are officially in the season. June 1st is the beginning, goes until the end of November, and they can pop up at any time. But there's a lot of meteorology type climate things that go into why this is the peak time of hurricane season. I will not act like I'm an expert, but this is the key takeaway of this year. So to go over a little bit of what we do at the Office of Emergency Management, under the operations section, we do have a branch called the Public Protection Branch. And one of the main functions of that branch is the evacuation working group. And so that group is comprised of our transit partners, such as HART, Sunshine Line, Hillsborough County Public Schools. And then we also coordinate with Hillsborough County Fire Rescue and our various private ambulance companies that we have here in the county, to include AMR, AmeriCare, and TransCare. And so that group, if deemed necessary for some type of evacuation order that is put in place, that group does a lot of the heavy lifting and the planning and the execution for those emergency evacuations. And they also come together with their resources in order to make sure we are able to service everyone, no matter of their, disability or ambulatory capabilities, right? So we do a lot of coordination with wheelchair bound individuals, things of that nature. And this will be able to help folks evacuate, whether they're going to friends or family or to a hotel. And it could also mean bringing them to one of our emergency shelters. So last year, of course, we were very busy. So for Helene, we did call for an evacuation zone A. That does impact approximately 285,000 individuals here in Hillsborough County. We plan for about 7.5% of those individuals requiring some type of sheltering and or transportation assistance. And then during Hurricane Helene and Milton, we called for a zone AB evacuation because we were anticipating that 10 to 15 feet of storm surge, which luckily we ended up not getting. So again, now you're looking at approximately 300,000 individuals that we plan for evacuating and getting out of those areas. Post-storm, so in doing this, I should add here, that's mentioned up here, that the evacuation working group utilizes a strategy called the hub and spoke model. And so these various partners that you see listed work together in order to properly pick up, bring to a hub location, and then transport out depending on where those individuals need to go. Works very effectively. We've done this for quite a few years now. And we included in that is our 4 transit transfer centers. Hillsborough County Public Schools and their bus drivers also assist us with this process. And we will do this in reverse when comes time for demobilization or getting people back home from shelters and things of that nature after the storm passes. We also did have a very busy post-storm response with our transportation partners last year because of the storm surge and the inland flooding that we saw with both storms. So the transportation partners were key in helping our first responders with what we call lily pad operations, where they were rescuing folks from water, bringing them to dry land, and then our transportation partners were picking them up and they were bringing them to their safe location. So they have responsibilities and roles in both of those aspects. And then we also provide them with recovery type transportation if they have limitations, or maybe unfortunately they might have lost their mode of transportation due to the impacts. We were providing transportation to our disaster recovery centers, our multi-agency recovery centers, our comfort stations, as well as any types of points of distribution. And, you know, their regular duties as well, such as Sunshine Line, bringing folks to medical appointments, dialysis, things of that nature. So here's that, what I talked about, and some of the other transportation that we were helping with last year was also our transitional sheltering. We had a lot of folks that had lost their personal items and documentation, identification, proof of residency, and proof of, you know, living in a home and things like that, where we had to help transport them to locations where they could hopefully replace those types of items. So they were helping with that as well. All right. So here is just a reminder for those of you in your planning process for hurricane season. It's very important to know your evacuation zone. So this is our Hillsborough County heat map, where you're able to type in your address and it will let you know which evacuation zone that you are in. As a reminder, evacuation zones are specific to storm surge. They are different than flood zones. So those are 2 different things. So this will let you look up your evacuation zone. It will also let you know for pre-planning purposes which shelters are closest to where you live. That is always dependent on how we activate and what we open up. So there is messages, and we do tell residents to make sure they're looking through media and all the media releases that we put out on what is open. And that is also updated in real time during activations on this heat map. So they can always go and see exactly which locations are open and what services would be closest to them. And then a final reminder here is our HCFL alert. I would encourage anyone that is not signed up for this to register. This is our opt-in mass notification system. So during emergencies, any type of emergencies, we're able to communicate directly with those that have opted into this communication and let them know updates on any type of emergency services and information that they may need to know. If you scan this QR code, it will bring you directly to the registration portal, or you can find it at our Hillsborough County Stay Safe page with Hillsborough County, our HCFL alert. So this is my contact information if anybody wants to talk to me or has questions after, but at this time, I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
In the work group, are there any members of the public? And then,
Not in the evacuation working group. They're just comprised of those entities that really implement and assist us with the evacuation. But of course, we do have partners such as Jared Stickney, any of our processes post storms as well, or incidents where we're doing after action reports, surveys from the public. We also have something we implement during activations where folks are able to do self-reporting. They can also report damages or unmet needs. That can also include transportation. We take all of that into effect with our planning and capabilities for this working group. Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Once the people are picked up and got to the hub, then their destination has to be within Hillsborough County.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Any other questions? A couple of things. This is a great report. Thank you very much. Lily Pad operations, you should register that trademark. That's really pretty good. So there. The evacuation zone, that last year became like, well, I'm in a flood zone A, or there was a lot of consternation that I heard. And I wasn't even in town for either storm, so even being remote, I heard. How are we advertising that to the public now so that they can learn differential between the evacuation zone and the current flood zone? Because by that point, everybody's in the panic and they're not really paying attention. What's the difference?
Yeah, so we work very closely with Hillsborough County Communications Department, and we are doing various outreach events throughout the year and modes of communication with the public on this type of education, and have been for years. And like I said, we learn something new every year when it comes to these things. But we do a lot of media interviews. I myself am one of those individuals that do that for our team. We've also started something last year in partnership with Communications called Make a Plan Monday. And so when we go into the season, Communications works with our local media outlets, and we have different stories that we cover on Mondays for making a plan for disasters. One of those topics is about evacuation zones, how to evacuate, and your plan for that, and flood zones and what the differences with those are. The department and the Office of Emergency Management also publishes our disaster guide every year that we really distribute to the masses. And in that also has our heat map. It has the evacuation zones itself, and also includes all of our shelters, general population that we provide for the year. And it also has all the information of how folks are able to register for our special needs registry, which in that process, they are also educated on the evacuation process and how that would go in the event that their assistance is needed for transportation. And then we have an extensive outreach and education program in the Office of Emergency Management. So we do over 100 different outreach and education events throughout the year. On various levels, HOAs, larger events where, we're doing booths and handouts, boards, commissions, one-on-ones. We do mobile homes. We have a pretty good mobile home, and outreach education and RVs with parks. So various ways.
Would it be possible to get some of the major documents or whatever it is you used to this guy over here, so he could send it out to us, so that we can take it back to our respective organizations and distribute it and say, hey, guys, this is something we're going to do now, getting the summer before the storm. Before there's a storm, I'm going to roll around. I know he likes it when I ask him.
So our disaster guide is currently available on the HCF or the Hillsborough County Stay Safe page as a digital copy. It's available in both English and Spanish. So I can share the link with the team. And then depending if you guys would like hard copies, you can contact me. I'm going to leave a stack of business cards up here as well. So if you email me with the amount that you would like, I'll get that over to our logistics team, and they'll coordinate a pickup where you can come and pick up hard copies of those disaster guides to distribute.
Just send something out there, because we walk out of here, we got back to our regular stuff.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose, this is important, it could have been a real disaster.
Actually, that does lead to a question, like, oftentimes people think, well, I'm gonna be okay. How much heads up time do they need to get a hold of some, or who do they contact to get help with evacuating? Do they need to give you a heads up time, what much time do you guys need to go?
Not necessarily.
get
So
someone out?
we plan the evacuation, and literally through calculation and study that we have done in partnership with the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. So all of this is based off of population size and clearance times, depending on the impacts that we're seeing. So to give an example of that, we know if we call for a zone A evacuation, we want to give the public at least 24 hours of clearance time in order to do that. Prior to that call even happening, when we are ramping up for an event, specifically with our special needs registry and a lot of those that oftentimes require additional transportation assistance. The Department of Health actually manages that registry. It's over 4,000 individuals that have registered there. And they send out a poll prior to asking those that if they think, if this is going to happen, do they think that they're going to evacuate? And if so, do they require transportation assistance? So the planning is already starting at that point and the coordination with this evacuation working group. In addition to that, once we are thinking we're really getting into this, the county's communication department, they will then open up the HCC storm number. If you guys remember that from last year, it was all over the place. So that becomes our activation disaster line. And individuals are able to call into that line and request transportation. And those requests come directly into our emergency operations center and to the public protection branch to coordinate and do transportation missions. In addition to that, our Department of Health also coordinates any type of acute hospital placements for those that exceed the care at our special needs shelters, and then coordinate with the transportation partners, most of the time the private ambulance companies, to get them where they need to go into other facilities.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like a mom with 3 kids who's working full-time.
Yep.
Maybe in Palm River.
No
and
notice.
Just suddenly realizes, oh, no, I
Yep.
didn't make any plans.
Yep, she just calls us, or we also communicate that they can go to their nearest HART bus stop. They can get on any bus. All that transportation becomes free during an activation, and they will bring them to the hub and wherever they need to go within the county.
Excellent, thank you.
Absolutely.
It's 35,000 now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that is a part, unfortunately, of the communication as well, where we push in those days leading up, that at a certain point, we would be no longer able to move until wind speeds and things die down for responder safety.
35 miles an hour, none of us are out walking.
Hopefully not.
Very good. Thank you.
Sorry, I had a question. For those that need special needs transportation, are they required to register every single year?
Any other questions, Jerry?
Yeah, they should update their information, absolutely.
Jerry Stickney, Sunshine Line. Just want to thank Katya and Emily for being here. For those that may or may not know, I transferred from the Office of Emergency Management. I was able to work with Katya for about 7 days. And I left. We can say we worked in the same place. But the last 5 years, the growth with the OEM and the team and the leadership, and then from HART and school board collaboration, I think it's understated that we've come a very long way in how we support evacuations and transportation pre and post storm. Even the lily pad piece is something that I didn't talk about, but what we did say is that happened at 3 a.m.
Yes.
So we have staff that have volunteered to be part of our night shift, that when it is safe, a little riskier than we would want to be, but when it's safe with the winds and different things, we'll go out and partner with our sheriff's office, different things. But from the transfer stations to the hub and spoke, it's in HART's plan. It's been posted to the public. It's something we've done for years, and it's out there and it works. So just want to make a big thank you to OEM and our partners with HART and School Board. We've come a long way from that, and just proud of where it's come. And every year we get better and better.
Another question, the disaster, planning guide is in English and Spanish.
Yeah.
Is it possible to get them in any other languages? I know, NAPD just this week, I've been contacted from some of the members of the public asking if one of our documents were available in Arabic or Mandarin. So is it possible that to get this disaster guide in another language?
Currently not. We have been working with the communications department to see where we can expand our language translation. We do have services, and I know communications has things built into the county website that does help with various translations of other languages. We're an extremely diverse county. And so we have a lot of smaller pockets and things of other languages that makes that difficult.
Yeah.
But the Office of Emergency Management also does partner with a lot of other agencies that can assist with that education and communication with emergency information. Specifically even the Tampa Bay Refugee Task Force with a lot of those individuals.
Thank you. Good. Thank you very much, Rick.
Of course, and like I said, I have my business cards up here if you guys want to reach out. Thank you so much.
Next report will be for disability disasters and voting. Disasters don't discriminate. Danielle and Brian. Welcome.
Board members for having me back. It's been 4 years that I've seen you. So, I'm in a new position at a new agency. My name is Danielle McGill, for those that do not know me. I'm the access advocate for disability rights in Florida. My pronouns for the people online are she and her. And I am blonde, hazel-eyed, and I'm wearing pink and beige pants. And my colleague next to me here is Brian Russell. He is the Emergency Management Coordinator for Disability Rights Florida. And I'll have him describe some as well.
Hey, good morning, y'all. Brian Russell, I'm the EM coordinator with Disability Rights Florida. Middle-aged, white guy, wearing I have no clue what color this is, purplish. Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm the EM coordinator. Been with Disability Rights for almost 4 years. Prior to that, I was the access and functionality coordinator with Florida Department of Health and the State Emergency Response Team, hanging out in the State Emergency Operations Center during all of the disasters from 2017 to 2021-ish. So, yeah.
But the center, or the mouse.
So yeah, so quick blurb about who we are, Disability Rights Florida. Disability Rights Florida is the state's designated protection and advocacy organization. What that means is all U.S. states and territories have a P&A. We were established in 1977 through federal law. Our main goal is to advocate for the rights of people with disabilities in every aspect of their life, whether that's healthcare, transportation, education, employment, justice systems, voting, emergency management, housing, any area that impacts your life, we advocate for. Just wanted to make sure that people with disabilities have the same access to those services as people without disabilities. We've been doing it in Florida since 1977. Like I said, if you go to any state or U.S. territory, they have a P&A that focuses generally on the same stuff. Each P&A is a little differently because every state and territory is a little differently. But yeah, we're currently funded through about 9 federal grants. Not sure what that looks like after October 1, but we'll still be here. Might look a little different, but we'll still be here.
As far as our work goes, for the voting realm, which I focus on, as well as Brian, our voting work is under the PAVA grant, which is the Protection and Advocacy Voter Access Grant, and the federal granted P&A network by the Help America Vote Act of 2002. That's what funds our work to make sure that voting is accessible for individuals with disabilities, and that goes through their voting rights, to accessibility of a polling place, to how they're able to vote, whether mail-in vote, voting by mail, excuse me, either if they want to vote on a voting accessible machine whether it be early voting, whether it be in person, mail drop, ballot drop box. It could be any way, shape or form. That act in itself makes sure that we have the right to independently vote and privately in the way we choose. And also who we choose to help us to vote. And it cannot be your employer, it cannot be even your representative. So why are we here? Transportation and how it relates to voting is very big. It affects voter turnout. It affects demographically, it affects every marginalized group and everyone. It does not discriminate. So transportation, voting to go together. So in the research that I found, which is very little research, nationwide and state and county level, but I did find some for us. FDOT did a study that focused on voter turnout, and they use administrative data at the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles. And this study shows that the effects of access to public transit on the voter, the people that don't have access to transportation, overall 66% voted in the 2018 general election compared to the 36 that did not. So there was a 30% gap of people that did not get to vote because they did not have access to either fixed route, paratransit, or other modes of transportation like rideshare, TNC networks, so forth. Lack of access to these modes creates disparities, like I said, and it also lowers our participation to participate in the democratic process. So what is missing is we need more initiatives, more local nonprofits, more county level work this regard to getting the word out to how we help people get to where they want to go is what we do on a daily basis at this board, right? So we focus on employment, we focus on healthcare, we focus on recreational activities, but we forget the most important one is voting. And voting, if we have these places being accessible for us, like on polling sites, polling locations, but if a person wants to go to vote and there's not, and if it's accessible for them, but they don't have the transportation to do so, it discourages them from voting for the next election cycle. So what can transit providers do? And we saw this action happen in 2020 when our former president gave an executive order to have these type of service changes or different deliveries of transportation. So, and we see this now still going about during every election cycle. I'm proud to say that Hillsborough County, part in all, most of our transit providers are doing some communication and some events regarding voting. So one of them is a fare free day where passengers ride for free and would not be subject to the FDA's requirements for fare equity analysis. Operators that are considering holding fare free days, federal or non-federal election days, should always be mindful of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So if you're going to provide trips for the election cycle, they do recommend that they're fare free. Bottom line. Two, transit stations can be used for excellent locations to place nonpartisan election material, information, voter registration materials, or voter registration tables. The placement of these materials has to be in accessible locations, like I said, under the EDA, Americans with Disabilities Act. Three, providers may consider temporary service changes to make polling locations easier to reach. Changes might include frequent service or extended hours on days that polls are open or special service to polling locations if they are not on an established route. Transit operators may consider temporary signage directing riders to stops located near polling places or where voter registration and ballot drop-off boxes are located. Operators with the ability to make temporary changes to maps, wayfinding devices, or mobile apps may consider doing so. But must remember the Americans with Disabilities Act. And all of these materials must be in all different languages, not just English, or accessible formats. And the one key one that I strongly stress here is early coordination between transit systems and local election officials, like the supervisor of elections. It is key for coordinating transportation systems in places. Working together helps to make the whole process easier on the voter. Now the next steps. So how can this be done? How can you assist in your county? So develop a transit map of polling places that have accessible routes. Collaborate with other agencies, like 10 agencies that are contracted, or rideshare companies that offer or would like to give rides to the voting locations for our population, the transportation is an energy. Having available advertisement in different formats, such as paper mail or snail mail, text, or email, paratransit riders about the different hours of service, or their free days to vote in person, or ballot drop-offs. And transit providers can work together with election officials, like I said, with SMBs, polling staff, and coordinating when planning transportation before the next election cycle. So we're not in an election cycle, but we can prepare ahead. And lastly, we could share along with your nonprofit agencies that you are affiliated with about the different needs of the transportation disadvantaged population and how voting affects people. Yeah. How they can help. And I would like to end my part of the presentation with a quote. And this was said by Kelly McFarland Stredman, CEO for the League of Women Voters of the U.S. Voting is a fundamental right that should be accessible to all citizens, regardless of their location, ability, or mobility. Ensuring safe and reliable access to polling places with all modes of transportation helps promote inclusiveness and strengthens our democracy by enabling greater participation in the electoral process. Everyone deserves the right to vote, and transportation should never be a barrier. Thank you.
Okay, so kind of want to touch on, especially what Katya said before she left, which is unfortunate because I was going to brag on her. So, I guess unfortunately, back 250 years ago, our founding fathers did not take hurricane season into account when scheduling fall general elections. But the good news is we can always plan. And that's what we're gonna kind of discuss today is disasters, disasters and elections and how it impacts people with disabilities. So, so kind of knowing your neighborhood is important. Knowing who's in your community, the makeup of your community, is important for planning. It's important for ensuring that people with access to functional needs have what they need, before, during, and after disaster. This data I pulled from Florida Charts, for 2020. It's probably underreported. Some of it I think comes from Census Bureau. So it's probably underreported. It's just kind of a guideline of, hey, how many people with mobility limitations in general should we expect in Hillsborough County? So just kind of keep that as a guideline. But I mean, bottom line, knowing your community is, and who's in your community, is important for planning. And just a couple of other data points. People with disabilities tend to be dramatically more impacted by disasters than people without disabilities. That's that's global, actually, but definitely nationwide. And at least here in Florida, people with disabilities have a higher poverty level, than people without disabilities. This impacts, this means access to transportation, access to healthcare, access to employment, and all other services as well. So something to consider when continuing to build out your plan, whether it be disasters or elections, or as happened last year and 4 years prior, both. Another key point is communication, making sure that before, during, and after disaster, communicating in plain language is important. We kind of harp on this, I know, but just wanted to make sure that when you're communicating, especially during the disaster and during an election cycle, where the bus stops are going to be, where the transportation is going to, where pickups are going to be, where can I get access to the poll site? Where are the poll sites going to be? During previous elections, in some counties, poll sites had to be changed because they were shelter sites. And you don't want to have a shelter where your polling site normally is. We saw that in Sarasota in 2020. So in 2021, but we saw how that impacted after Ian. There were some polling site issues where there were long-term recovery shelters. So ensuring that you're communicating effectively before, during, and after disaster, where you can vote, how you can get to the polling site, how you can get, where you need to go. It's great that Hillsborough County, and then I think Hillsborough County, y'all do a great job. Y'all are one of the ones that we brag on to other counties, and to other states. Part of my job, I work with other PNAs across the country, and they'll reach out, like the PNA and the Colorado Law Center is a protection advocacy organization for Colorado. They reach out, usually right when our wildfire is starting to creep up. They'll reach out and ask for information on, hey, how do we in Florida handle evacuations? Yeah, granted, we don't deal with wildfires here as much, but it's the same principle. So I'm preaching to the choir. This is a good thing. Y'all really do a great job. But just say all that to say, ensure that your communication is accessible, when available, when needed. Use certified ASL interpreters. That's especially key during a disaster with press conferences, is making sure that your ASL interpreters are certified. They're real ASL interpreters. That's key for our deaf and hard of hearing community. ASL is another language. It's not English. So closed captioning will not work. for ASL speakers, for those who use ASL. And the other main point is collaboration is key. Like I said, I see APD here, they're a phenomenal partner. Make sure that you're planning with the disability community, not planning for the disability. Ann Richards, former Texas governor, had a great quote years ago. She said, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. So make sure that you're including your Centers for Independent Living, your local ADA coordinators. APD is here, that's fantastic, they're a wonderful partner. But include your disability community at your planning table. Get their perspective. When you're exercising, wish Connie was here, but when you're going through your exercises, make sure that you're including the disability community in those exercises, so you know how to plan with and how to exercise with someone with an actual disability. And like I said, these these organizations on this list have been key partners for my work when I was, for here at Disability Rights and prior. And one quick thing, a quick legislative update. There were several bills related to emergency management and emergencies and disasters in this legislative session. Some of them didn't make it. House Bill 1535, Senate Bill 180 for the emergency bill that did make it through. It was House Bill 1535 was kind of morphed or folded into the Senate Bill 180. It's going to do a lot to further to expand special needs shelters. It's going to help people with disabilities bring their caregivers to stay with them at special needs shelters. Most county special needs shelters, Jennifer, you might be able to address this too. Most county special needs shelters allow that. But it codifies that. So it just is a way to make sure that all county special needs shelters do that. It's going to be great. It's going to be very important. It puts some more onus on further promoting the registry to independent living facilities, nursing homes, assisted living facilities. So it's going to be an improvement for the special needs, for the registry, shelters, access and functional needs Community. So it was a good bill. We're glad it passed. We're waiting for the governor to sign it. There were a few items in the bill that didn't make it through regarding elections. Basically making elections more accessible during if a disaster is impacting an election. It was making it easier for people to vote during those times. Those items were struck before it was put in negotiation, which is fine. That gives us more stuff to work on between now and next session. But overall, it was a good bill. We're glad it passed. Waiting on the governor to sign it.
Any questions?
Yes.
Question regarding that bill and some of these, setting up the registries and things, did they include financing any of it?
No.
Any other questions? I have one comment. Your comment, Brian. Planning with savings and flexing for that's a significant statement. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
The air monitor network. Mr. Wyatt.
Morning, transportation to City Management Coordinating Board. I'm Wyatt Burchell with the Transportation Planning Organization to provide a brief update on the Community Air Monitoring Network. So on May 1st, we joined project partners with the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County and the University of South Florida for the 24th Annual Clean Air Fair. This event featured environmental exhibits, vendors, health information from across the county, and provided an opportunity to highlight and showcase the Plant Hillsborough's ecological initiatives, including the Hillsborough River Board and Technical Advisory Committee, and of course, the Community Air Monitoring Network project. On May 8th, we held our fifth quarterly coalition meeting focused on the community planning process. We had a presentation focused on the activities of the Hillsborough Transportation Planning Organization, and we had an open forum to elicit public feedback from those in attendance on proposed solutions, on what they would like to see from the project moving forward, and ways that they can get involved. We'll keep a lot of the discussion from that meeting moving forward as we look at our upcoming coalition meeting, which will take place sometime either in July or August. So stay tuned. If you would like to get more updates on that meeting, just feel free to let me or Molly know. The coalition will also have a annual summit planned for the fall. So likewise, stay tuned. As far as the project goes, we are still engaging with prospective sites and existing sites to make sure that they have what they need. We're in conversation with the City of Tampa Parks to maintain existing sites that were established during the pilot study, and working with the parks to add new sites to the network. We're also looking at partnerships with other organizations such as the West Shore Alliance to help us help us be connected to sites that were recommended to us from the survey and other comments that we've received. I would note that one of the difficulties is signing the memorandum of understanding. So personal introduction goes a long way with connecting with the site. So if you know of anybody in particular and would be willing to introduce us and make that connection, it would certainly go a long way. And with that, I'd be glad to take the questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Moving forward, Sunshine Line update, Mr. Jeremy.
Jerry Stickney, Sunshine Line, and want to start by really saying I hope Hurricane Karen and Jerry does not come to Florida. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that. But I want to start off by talking about the hurricane season and kind of review a little bit about what we do in our process of it as well. And I want to introduce Angela Salter is in the back. She's part of our team. She's our lead emergency manager for our department. Was with us the last hurricane season. I also had the opportunity to work with her when I was with emergency management. And since OEM left, I stole her when I could. So she's been with the county for over 30 years in different roles, and brings a lot of knowledge in EM and just planning and everything. So we're super happy to have her on the team. And to expand, so with our main focus part of the evacuation working group, we are the lead agency for the special needs registry transportation. So Department of Health, they organize the registry. They have that 4,000 list, and then we get a list, and it's roughly 800 to 900 people that stated that they needed transportation at that time. We coordinate with Department of Health, and it's one of Karen's roles to utilize an Everbridge system and do call outs to verify, do you still need transportation? What we learned from Irma was out of the 400 or so trips we booked, we did 100 because there was no shows or people showed up and they didn't want to go or they had already left. So this has been evolving year after year. So with that, notice it's multiple callbacks till we get a response. So it's not just one and done, it's multiple, so we make sure that we're contacted on. The upside is if they decide no at that time, they always have the option to call HC Storm and put in a transportation request. And in the EOC, we manage all the transportation requests that come into the call center is managed through the evacuation working group. So we have a small team that reviews all of those and we'll distribute it based off of what their need is and where they're going. So there's still an option. Once we get those numbers and we know who said they need transportation, our call center runs through and we talk to every single person individually, remind them of the shelter, where they're going, the things that they should think about, make sure you have their medication, some of those pieces, and reminding again what to expect. Shelters, it's a lifeboat, not a cruise ship, as some say. So just reminding them of those pieces and then coordinating a time to pick them up. And that's helped a lot with lowering down our no-shows and supporting, because one thing we do in addition to the transportation for the evacuation pre-storm, we're also working with all of our clients who need to go to dialysis before the storm. A lot of our clients to go grocery shopping and getting supplies to ride out the storm. So those are all happening at the same time that we're working the evacuation to those shelters. So once that all goes through, and we come off the road roughly around 30 miles an hour. And for that, we're all over the county, and that gives us a little bit of time to get our vehicles back home and to their spots to park and be safe. And then also allows our staff time to get home so that they're not driving in hurricane force winds. So we work with that, and we do have a staff, like I said, that stays on during the storm. Angela and I are at the EOC through the storm. We have drivers that are there that can go out to work those lily pad operations and so forth as needed. And then on the back end of the storm, we immediately help with reverse transportation for the general population shelters, because with special needs shelters, it takes time to process everybody out, making sure that the power is back on in their house, that they have supplies when they go home to sustain themselves, because pharmacies might not be back open, they might not have enough oxygen. So as DOH works those things, we have a pocket of window that we are working with our general population shelters, then our dialysis centers, to those that haven't been dialyzed, to get them back out to try to get back on the schedule and not mess things up too much. And then we work through those pieces. And with the prior storm, with recovery centers and comfort stations, we've supported transportations for that. People who had transportation, their cars were flooded. So we help coordinate those pieces for employment, for work, for groceries. Just within those last two storms, hurricane-related specific trips and transportation, we drove roughly over 48,000 miles and over 4,000 trips just for those two storms. And on top of those, we had our normal service, our other pieces that weren't hurricane-related that we were doing on top of that. So we make sure that people know what to expect, and really work with Tico a lot on post-storm. We had a scenario where someone went home and we were sitting there, and then we got there. A lot of times power was on when they left and it was off when we got there. And one in particular case, the client wanted to still go into their house. The power was out. We said, no, we need to take you back. And there was a discussion, and then they called dispatch and we're waiting to figure it out. And in that time frame, if the power was out and they were waiting, the roof collapsed. Then they decided they wanted to go back to the shelter. So it's one of those things, we don't just drop and leave. And this is for the evacuation working group as a whole. Heart Plus helps with those in those areas as well. So I can't be more proud of the collaboration and the effort that the teams put in over the years amongst all the transportation providers and our AmeriCare, TransCare, AMR. We've come a long way. Hopefully we don't have to use any of those things we've learned over the years. Then this year's nice and easy. Then before I go into the status report, I want to give a shout out in this meeting. Risk management, our department reached out to us and wanted to recognize Sunshine and a couple of our operators for, having a very low issues with our driving and accidents. We honored Linda Tillman and Doug Shin. We looked past them the last year and a half, and they had no at-fault accidents. We have safety observations we put in place. They've had high safety observations and high and also tangible. Sometimes you get things that, you know, aren't always practical, but they send in good stuff. They're observant, and their peers look to them for guidance, and they're great operators, and I want to recognize them for that recognition. And then as we go to our operating stats, we've got March, April, and May here. Our total trips, kind of averaging out in that high 900s, 10,000s for the year. And then on-time performance was 95.2 for May, 94 with our new system. And a year or so ago, we, you know, with our driver vacancy and trips increasing, we were hard to reach. 2 years ago, we were at 89.7 for the year. We missed our 90% goal. Last year, I think we're at 92 and some change. So this year, we're doing very well in sustaining and holding that as trips grow, as traffic continues to get worse, as I'm sure we've all felt this morning getting here. And our call center this year has been a point of contention with vacancies, high call rates. And as you can even see, our calls through March and April and May have gone down 8,000, almost 9,000, down to the 6,600 mark. And a lot of that was due to from February, March, and April as we were short-staffed, and we transferred to a new scheduling software, which took more time. And as we talked about, a lot of our clients, where they're so used to a short wait time, if it's more than 40 seconds, they're hanging up and calling again. Or if they get a rep that's new, we realize they don't know the name, they hang up, and they call again, they get a rep that they like. So it happens, but we worked through that, and I'm happy to say right now we're 100% staffed with our call center as of mid-late April, and our answer rate is 98.4% for our call center, with a average hold time of 23 seconds. If you recall, you know, March you'll see is 3 minutes, 2 seconds. I think we peaked around 5-6 minutes, which if you called someone and was on hold at a call center, that's something that's not crazy, but it's not our standard. It's not what we look to. So we're happy to be back toward that 23-second and holding strong there. Our driver capacity holding at 96% right now. We have 2 vacancies. One is starting in a week, and the other one that we were onboarding ended up taking a different role. So in about a week or so, we'll only have 1 driver vacancy. We'll recruit again, and we're staying strong with that. It was talked about our recommendations that we've been working on. So our software updates, you know, we launched in February. The next big piece we're looking for is that mobile application that we're looking to launch. We unfortunately haven't been able to launch that yet. We've tested it, we piloted it, and we found some errors, and the developers are fixing some bugs in the system. So what it ended up doing was basically allowing people to book a trip anywhere at any time at any given piece, and that's, you know, we're not open 24/7, so it would have caused a lot of issues. So they're working on that piece, but we were able to launch a text service, so where you would get a text message to your phone 5 minutes before the driver arrived. And our customer service team, they've been letting people know they're opting into it. They're not automatically signed up for it. They have to want to join it. We've seen some great feedback. And even I think that it's probably going to play to a little bit of our lesser call volume, because a lot of times, where's my vehicle, where's my bus? They know they're going to get that text and that notification. So some of our no-shows have been less in our wait time. You know, it's a 5-minute no-show. We get there, but you know, we're reasonable. We wait, and we're seeing a lot of those calling in a dispatch. Hey, I'm going to wait another 5-10 minutes. You know, that's been going down as well. So moving in the right direction. I'm really excited for that app that hopefully next couple of weeks, again, by the next meeting, I'm hoping I can say we have it live and ready to roll. And then the last piece, just piloting more fuel efficient, smaller vehicles. We do have the 10 Ford Transits out in the world and the 3 electric vehicles. Our new cutaways, they're all in Florida. They're at the state in their final inspections. And on the back, you'll see the different vehicles that we have. So we've been playing catch up, with COVID and the tail end, there were some lag in, building in different parts, and then the state contract that we use, the trips contract, we were waiting for that to get updated. So we had a couple of years where we didn't place an order. One, it was less mileage because of COVID, we weren't driving as much, and then, making sure that we were the most efficient with our money. Upside is by waiting to replace them, but $90,000 bus costs me $150,000 now, which, but because we kept paying into our replacement fund, we had the money to afford that component. So, those are on order. We got, I believe it's, the 8 that are coming in, 15 we placed for another order next month. And we'll have another 15 ordered at the end, probably September timeframe. And at that point, we'll be fully caught up, with at least our orders. And they're taking anywhere from 9 to 12 months from order to being built, inspected, graphic, go through our fleet, register and all that fun stuff. So, still not a terrible time frame, but still, planning on that piece. And then, on those new, and there's those cutaways, that all-in-one securement platform, there's a picture of it on the back. Really excited for that new technology. So we'll have our standard normal securements in the front, and that'll be one in the back. So once they come in and their graphic, we'll have it displayed downstairs. I think we'll probably bring all 3 different types, so y'all can see them before and after, one of our, board meetings, just to get an eye on it. And, we're excited for that new technology, and a little bit quicker, a little bit safer, a little different. We're all humans. Incidents happen. We're fortunate, with our training and, piece, we don't have a lot of incidents, but, looking forward to that new technology, be able to, move forward with the times. The last of my report, pending any questions.
Your question?
What is the criteria for retiring your vehicle?
So we do a 5-year replacement cycle. So we like for them to be around that 120,000 or so mark when they retire. But we do a 5-year replacement. And right now we're at that 5-year, again, the COVID timeframe was a little bit lower, but those ones that are getting ordered out of the state, those vehicles are sitting around 140 to 150, 150,000 miles right now. So, but it's around that 120, but 5 years when we place that order. And we'll do it the year 4, and then hopefully they'll get here in that 5-year timeframe.
So I have kind of a broader question. As you know, I work with a lot of social service agencies. And one of the things that's come up, a lot of them are working with people trying to get better, financial stability and working odd hours. I know you have to do your 9 to 5, you're set up and structured the way you are. Have you thought of though, or has Herc Plus, or has there been discussion, perhaps private public partnerships, where maybe either the social service agency or maybe these employers that are helping these people, and they're working off hours, so they're working later than 5 or going in earlier than at 9 in some cases. Is that a possibility to work out sort of brokering some sort of contract where a membership or something like that could be done, or is that crazy?
Yeah, I don't think anything's crazy, until, and as you review it, you never know even what can build off of that. So, and just for clarity, our service hours are 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our buses leave at 6 a.m. and they'll be back by 5. Our call center is at 9 to 5, and those are the office hours. So we are a little bit earlier for that, so you can book trips around 6 a.m. But in the past, we did have a taxi contract that we were able to use on when we were off hours. We had to terminate that contract due to not holding up to their contract with picking people up, a lot of different things. We're in talks of how we get back to having a vendor that can do those off hours, things like that. Right now it comes down to funds, and we'll see, we'll get our draft budget for the county next couple of weeks, and we'll see, what October 1 holds. But we do plan to go back out to bid for that. We've done it in the past, and we ended up not getting vendors who wanted to apply for it. So the ones that we got were ones in the past that had bad marks, or not against it. In fact, it's part of our planning, and we're waiting to see what our next budget is to we have some funds allocated for that, and seeing how we can allocate more funds, to support that, especially, as we did Saturday service for a couple of years and we're not able to sustain that. So that's again, going back to the weekend, the night service, exactly for the employment piece of it that are odd hours, the shift workers. So it's definitely part of our planning process and things that we're looking at. Comes down to the financial piece of it and being able to afford and finding the right vendor.
Well, that's why I was wondering, is there something legislatively or any law or anything that would prevent you from allowing, like, say, hotel motel association may have off-hour workers, but say they pull together and they buy a subscription to your service or a membership fee for your service, or with it. So they supply some small portion because they get the benefit of getting workers here. I know years ago, we were able to have many years ago, a sort of partnership with a number of the hotels and motels in the area to help TANF, the hardest TANF people, because they were able to get people there and they would work on various agreements and things.
Yeah. Something of that nature, I'd have to look to review. I know from a standpoint of the operation and what availability we have, I'd be hard pressed to find beyond our TD and other clients to be able to expand more in that regard. But I'll definitely look back and I can report back on it and try to get a little more history and see what we could have do and what the statutes might allow and whatnot. Absolutely.
Any other questions? Yes.
One, I was wondering, when you said you were down a driver, has that impacted your service at all, or?
No, so we were at 56% driver capacity 2.5 years ago. So we've come along and we plan for if people call out, we have extra board, we have people on vacation. So what we'll do, we plan, we allow the 10% a day out of the operational piece of it. And as we're short staffed, we bring that percentage down to still stay within our routes of 35 to 40 vehicles on the road every day. So we plan for that. And we have a couple, all of our supervisors, our coordinators are all trained and they were drivers. So they'll support routes if we're short. Our senior operators, they'll do the ones and twos that don't fit. But yeah, so we plan for that. And then when we're short staffed, we just take back that percentage that we allow off.
I just have one more question. You mentioned you use Everbridge, which I know calls until you, so the state, we do that too, until you respond. But we also have that second step in place where if for some reason you don't respond to it, we have like a welfare check kind of in place.
Yeah.
Do you have something like that where you'll go?
We
and
do,
Someone will go out? Oh,
Yeah, so we don't go out, but our call center will then call again, because we don't do house visits, but we will call those that we don't get a hold of. We'll talk to DOH, and we'll run the ESC right there with them. But I think our response rate is usually pretty good. Out of that 800-900, I think last year we had, double digits. It was very few that didn't respond in one way or the other. But we do plan to call in again through our call center, a different line. But we don't have the ability to go do welfare checks like that. But yeah, we at least tried, maybe a different number or something to try to reach them again.
if they did continually not be reached though, would you like call maybe law enforcement for a welfare check or?
No, and simply because sometimes they don't have a phone number or there could be a myriad of other things. And we just, for our perspective and the timing of things, we don't go that far in depth. Not to say, I can ask DOH if there's something that they do that I don't know about, and I can bring it back as well. No, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think well, unless it's like a patient we really know always answers,
Yeah.
like do a well check, but it's not a standard practice and I know that.
because I know for like, if it's one of our standard clients that we always see or anything like that, like, we're in there, we'll knock on the door, we'll call, and we have their emergency contact. So we'll do that for our clients in different perspectives. That's every day, and especially during a storm, But yeah, no, I think it's, honestly, I don't think there's a lot of time. Even with, Katia mentioning 24 hours for zone A, well, in that 24 hours, we've got to create the file, send out Everbridges, make direct phone calls, schedule those phone calls, drive around 1,200 square miles, and we've got to wait till the shelter's actually open. So I think it would be great to do. I just don't know where it falls into that timeframe. But I'm gonna check OEM and just ask a couple more questions and see if maybe there's something in place. But I know we don't. We just try to continue to call.
You have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Could you share the name of your software? Program?
EcoLane. Yeah, we were with Route Match and now we're with EcoLane.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Chair. Okay, next presentation will be by Hart Plus Update, Jesus Garcia and Sherelle Wilbur. Sherelle. Very good.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sherna Wilburn, and I'm the van transportation manager at Hart.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I'm the van transportation manager here at Hart, and I'm here to share our quarterly update on our para services. So, at Hart, our paratransit customers are able to schedule their trips in two separate ways. One way is by appointment time or pickup time. So for our appointment trips for the month of March 2025, we serviced 4,934 trips with an OTP of 97%. Month of April 2025, we had a total of 5,601 trips with an OTP of 85%. May 2025, we had 5,433 trips with an OTP of 96%. And for our trips that were scheduled by pickup time, for the month of March 2025, we had 13,638 trips with an OTP of 89%. For the month of April, we had 15,313 trips with an OTP of 85%. May 2025, we serviced 14,577 trips with an OTP of 86%. So all of our trips combined for those months, March 2025, we had 13,713 trips. April, 15,162 trips. May, we serviced 14,203 trips. So for our cancels and no-shows for those 3 months, we averaged between 491, 501, up to 584 for our no-shows. And then for our cancellations, we average between 3,000 to 3,500 monthly. So our late trips during this quarter. So our late trips. Most of our trips we serviced on time, but we had some trips that were late during this time. We had a total of, I'm gonna give it 67% that was between an hour and a half late. Okay, so for our trip duration, our paratransit service by nature is a shared ride service. The standard of service is not to reflect that of a taxi service, which typically transport passengers directly to their destination. A paratransit trip should be comparable in length to an identical trip on a fixed route system, including the necessary time to travel to the bus stop, wait for the bus, actual riding time, transfers, and travel from the stop to the person's ultimate destination which means if walking is necessary at any portion of the trip, it is a part of that calculation as well. And as you can see by the slide here, most of our trips were completed within the 15-minute window. Next, I'll share with you our taxi service completed trips through our customer choice program with Yellow Cab. For the month of March, they completed 11,674 trips. For the month of April, they completed 12,745 trips. And the month of May 2025, they completed 12,160. And that is all I have. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have a question. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. I think you stated that 67% of trips were an hour to 90 minutes late. Was that right? Did I hear that?
I said it wrong. I said
Okay.
it wrong. I'm sorry. I said it wrong. I do apologize. Let me go back to that. I can't go back. I'll just, let me see. Okay. Thanks for listening. Okay, so for our late trips, our trips are broken down into different levels, right? So the time frame is from 60 to 89 minutes, 90 to 119 minutes, or 2 hours or more. Those are the levels that we had it break it down into. So out of all of our late trips, 67% of the late trips were within that first threshold. Only the 60 to 89 minutes.
And how many late trips were there? I guess.
A total
That would
number?
help me understand.
Let me see. Maybe I'm saying this whole slide wrong. I'm
No, that's
explaining it
It's
wrong.
okay. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
I don't have my total number of late trips with me, but from our OTP. OTP of 89%, so that left us with, I want to say 11% late trips for that month.
Of the 67% total.
Yeah, of the 11%, 67% were within that threshold. Thank you.
I understand better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
14,000, I believe with 14,000 trips, so 1,500 of them, 67%, whatever.
We're within that 6 hour to an hour and a half threshold. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Any other questions?
Are the taxi trips in addition to the 14,000, or are they included in that?
No, that's additional.
Okay.
The taxi trips are through the customer choice program, wherein our customers call taxi services directly for next day trips or any other thing like that. So those are separate.
They are expensive.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Capture details on the late ones as far as, the reason why late and what appointments or if appointments were affected, like if it were like a medical appointment, someone might miss it or anything like that.
We do categorize our late trips. I don't have that information with me now, but next time I will bring it if you would like further details.
I think it would be interesting to see who's impacted.
Okay, absolutely. I can do that.
Thank you very much. Lisa, you got anything? Nothing? Okay, so we go on to old business. TDCB member interest.
Yeah, I sent that out. If you have any, take a look at it, just put in there anything you want. Right now, we only have one response, so. Yeah, it's there for you guys. If you need me to send it out, we can like do it again. So just let me know.
I think that form, I think is very important. When you guys are, your clients, gotta tell us what you need, that comes through you. So if you need something, Lee and Hart and Jared with Sunshine Line and FDOT, anybody else who contributes to making transportation easier for those that are disadvantaged, but gotta know what you need, because otherwise we can't do anything. we're just giving out information. We don't know, what we don't know. So I know I've been harping on this for 6 months now. So please help switch it. Other piece of business, the next meeting is August 22nd. I know we're going to.
Oh, we need to, can you make a thousand thousand? What were you gonna say?
Can I just say something else?
Go ahead.
Okay. I know we're running late. I apologize for that, but I gotta give up $7 for a few minutes. So if you just give me 5 minutes and I'm probably going to start throwing stuff out. A lot of the discussions we talked about centered around Harvard, which is the main focus is funding. We have for years, been one of the most underfunded transit organizations in the whole country, probably in the whole world. And as a result, we've had to go through mission max cutbacks, 2017, 20, then COVID. You can't recover. The impacts of that for the most important aspect of it, which is our frequency. You miss a bus by 1 minute for waiting out on over half of our routes. That's just unacceptable in public transit. You've got to get back to the underlying theme of what is public transit. I'm preaching to the choir, I know, but I need your help with something. I'll get to my point in a second. We need to teach the world, our local residents, what public transit is to the people that need it. I live in Temple Terrace. I have a car. I don't take the bus. I use my vehicle to get ready to get to. But we have 1.4 billion people in this county, and they're serviced by our public transit. 500,000, give or take, live within the city complex, city boundaries of the city of Tampa. I got 27,000 in Temple Terrace living here. I have 3 routes that go through Temple Terrace. One of them is one of the highest routes traveled within the entire system. The bottom line is we can't get back to where we need to be to supply the level of transit capability to all of our residents. Okay, so what did we do? 2 years ago, we set up an ad hoc alternate revenue committee, and we beat up sales taxes, we beat up advertising. It all comes back to we need to increase to our basic funding mechanism, which is ad valorem taxes. I know nobody wants to pay any more property taxes than they have to. This is my opinion, this is a habit. Okay, I mean, you got your fire, you got your police, you got your sanitation. You gotta have public transit. Okay, so with that, we went back to the charter. We said, okay, we're limited to a 1/2 bill rate limit on ad valorem taxes. Legislature said we could go to 3 bills. But when the charter was created back in 1979, set up at 0.5. The charter hadn't been reviewed for 40 years. So we set up an ad hoc charter review commission. Part of it was initiated by recommendations by FDOT based upon a study that was required by the governor and the legislature back in 2023. So that study came out at the end of 23, and it said they are underfunded. They need additional resources of revenue. Bottom line is, for every dollar we take in that form, we can leverage that through state and federal grants and support, sometimes 3 to 1. Okay, so and I know we did the offer transportation tax several years ago. It passed, and I have my own theories as to why it fell down the hill the way it did because of the area there. But we had probably $250 million out of that money that already collected apart. We could have leveraged that to all those $3 billion through other grants and opportunities through the state and through the feds. We need buses to get back to pre-COVID levels, get back to mission max. We need to hire new drum board drivers. Everything's going up. A bus back then cost $600,000. Now they're $850,000. Jerry's talking about his buses and so forth. So we came back and we said, okay, we need 3 charter revisions. One was to changed the calculation on how members get appointed. At the rate we were going, we'll have 25 to 30 members in the next few years, and that's like herding cats, never get anything done. So we said, okay, we'll limit it to, change it to every 250,000 people that come into the county, we'll have another member. Okay, then we changed a little bit of their duties and, so minor issues. But the big one is increasing the ad valorem millage rate from a half to 1 mil. Okay, so get back to the board, we got that approved by the board of directors for Harvard. Now we gotta go out, we gotta get the city of Temple Terrace to approve, the city of Tampa to approve, and the BOCC. Okay, I expect they fight every level, every step of this process. Then once we get all that approved, then we still gotta go back to the BOCC, because we're not a taxing agency, to approve the verbiage to be utilized in the 2028 ballot. Okay, so we got 4 hills we got still yet to climb. And hopefully we'll get those going in the next, I plan on making a presentation up Terrace in probably late August, before once we get the budget started. Then we'll go to City Temple Terrace, that'll be Tampa, then we'll go to the BOCC, and then early next year, we'll go back to the BOCC with the verbiage. We're gonna need everybody's help. If you believe in heart, believe in public transportation, we're gonna need you guys to rally the cages, budget your troops, and let these people know that this is what we want. Gotta get politics out. We gotta take trouble here. I know I have some. We gotta get back to what we need and not what we think people want to hear us say. Okay, and we need to build up our public transportation, public transit, so that we can serve our constituents, we can serve our clients, you guys with your clients. Everybody here has got a stake in this. So I'm going to step up my soapbox. As you hear these things come up, if you got a question of what it is, ask. And we'll make presentations here if we have to. I'm going to go to the CRAs. I'm going to go to every homeowners association, every Republican club, every Democrat club that I can come up with to let the voters decide what they want. I don't care what your individual politics are, your individual boards. You get back and be a leader, okay? And let the people decide what they want. They don't want it. They don't want it. But for us to, because I'll be honest with you, if it doesn't happen in 2027, I guarantee you that there will be significant cutbacks at heart. And it's going to be very painful all up and down. So
I have a question. I'm new to the area physically, and I'm new to this world. I don't want to be the New Yorker in the room, but my perspective on public transportation is probably a little bit different. I have a higher standard, I guess, when it comes to public transportation, especially accessibility. Is there any collaboration with surrounding counties? Because in my role in community supports for APD, I'm in all of these other counties. And recently in Pasco, speaking to the group that we were speaking to there, they said, man, if there was a way for us to get to work or school or get our children to wherever they have to go from Pasco to Hillsborough, it would be a game changer. If there was, I live in Wesley Chapel. You would be surprised at how many people in Wesley Chapel come to Hillsborough County to bring their kids to school. Kids with disabilities, physical and intellectual disabilities. And the only way to do that is by driving, because there's no paratransit that connects the county.
There was.
Okay.
Again,
I'm new here as of 2022, so anything before that is.
Exactly.
Right.
Some big express routes that went from Wiregrass down all through it, all down into the heart region. There was a limited mission accidents on their standpoint. Okay, so yes, there is plans to re-expand, get the tentacles back out to.
Is it all funding? Is it all?
Actually, I just want to because most normal people don't know what a half mil means in terms of funding. Half mil is what funds, a little less than a half mil is what funds your children's board. And in 2024, that came to $70,106,582. So that's just if he's able to encourage people to get it up to 3 mil, do the math.
Well, what could, it'll never go to three. Yes,
Even that half mil,
Yeah, you-
that's 70 million.
right, exactly. There's only 2 counties in the state of Florida that have, a transportation authority. Everybody else is part of the county. Hillsborough and Pinellas are their own, their own entity. Why? I don't know. In fact, this is done back in the legislature, the 78, time. But it's a very weird duck. It really is very difficult to manage.
And just from your point too, I think you have to also take in consideration Plant City and South County. Because South County is not really a big bus route.
Yes.
So you have to bring something to the table to get that area on board. So other than bus route, you have to think of, ferry as part of your transportation plan or something else, you bring something else to the table. Because they're not gonna get on board with that, for that tax. I can tell you.
But I understand that.
Yeah. I would love to park, because I used to park and ride.
Yeah.
But I used to park and ride, but that's either early morning or, there's nothing in between.
We're working on it. Seriously, give them things to throw out there. Yeah, I mean, this guy here knows counts inside and out. And he knows if we want to go to South County. Lake City used to be a part of it. They opted out of it after a while. I'm sure. I don't know the politics behind that. It was one time ago. There's money. It's always money. But, there's this perception that there's more dollars. It's not that there is a perception that too many more dollars are being paid in by the county and not receiving the benefit of the hard services.
Yeah.
Well, that disparity is not as big as people think it is. Okay, we're talking a few percentage points, a differential. They want to see you Tampa pay. Well, you can't do that. Florida's not set up to handle that kind of taxation. Where you just charge a sales tax. You can't do it. It's too much of an overload. Department of Revenue can't handle it. So without a lot of legislative changes. So yeah, I'm sorry, I know.
What about federal funding? Is there any federal funding pieces that are involved?
But yes, there are federal funding pieces, but it requires input from local governments. And that's where the leverage comes in. Right? So we need to be there, and we lose out on a lot of funding dollars because we don't have the higher local inputs that some of the areas have. And a lot of people misconstrue when we talk about transit, we start talking about trains. No, this is nothing at all to do with trains. And I get very irritated. Don't tax your teachers. That's the edge. That's. Anyway, hopefully those people retired and figure knows that. So I apologize for it. Yes, but this is a big deal and it's going to get bigger over the next 2 months. Hey, temperatures can kill it if that happens. I can't promise I'm going to get cancer, but it's going to fail. It can fail at any point along the way. So you need help. We're going to rally the troops of Holland real loud and care. So thank you very much. You guys, what you had something else you need to say?
Well, I guess not as important as what you just said, but there's tables and comments.
No, thank you. Thank you, everybody. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.